Hello and welcome to the Film Angle. I'm Alex,
And I'm Kris.
and this is our 13th episode.
Yeah, I believe that's right. We're on unlucky number 13. So we're just having a bit of a catch-up session today. We've talked about movies that we've seen over the last few weeks. We've had a little bit of a stopgap, I believe, because we caught up with Doctor Strange last week, and we devoted ourselves to that. So, but we've seen other things in the meantime.
Better things, some would say.
I would argue for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. There's been some better viewings, even in the cinema as well.
Not dumping on Doctor Strange. It was a good movie,
No,
but there were better
yeah,
things. There's better stuff to see.
it was a fun film. Fun
Yeah,
film. Good mid-tier Marvel film.
I've forgotten most of it.
I would like to watch it again for sure. Have you noticed though? Like, it's very weird. I know you're not on Twitter, so I don't know how much you would have seen of this, but like, people are very heavily spoiling Doctor Strange. Like, it at the point of this recording, it's been out for a week. But like, there are clips of the end. There are clips of all the cameos. Like, you can just watch the whole film in clip form. I swear.
It isn't this just normal for Marvel films in general?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
That
recently
the
for
fans
sure.
just can't help themselves, or they like. Is there certain narcissism out of telling everybody that you've seen it and letting the secret out and kind of ruining people's experiences? Do you think people just get a kick out of that?
Definitely. I definitely think so. I remember tweeting that I was off to see Avengers Endgame. And this was on like the day of release. And somebody sent me a GIF. And I actively was like, I'm not gonna look at this GIF. Who is this random person sending me a gift? So I opened my phone after Endgame finished and looked at the GIF, and it was Iron Man doing the click and then snapping Thanos away. I was like, what the hell, dude? Like, if I had looked at that would have like,
How did they even get their hands on that GIF? Was it just like from a recording inside a cinema?
I guess so. Yeah, it was pretty fuzzy. I was like, I'm so glad I didn't see it. If I had seen it, I would have been absolutely fuming. I wasn't happy about it.
You only realized it was that after you had seen the movie, you went back and saw the GIF.
Yeah.
Where
I just
right,
had like a notification come up saying like somebody's replied, and I was like,
you, s-
I didn't recognize the Twitter handle, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna have a look because I know how people are. But
sounds like
yeah,
you need to get better friends.
I think this guy was just some awful spam person. Just literally, I literally looked at his Twitter feed, and he just spamming people with that GIF.
Nice, nice. It's nice to know that there's good people out there.
I remember things like that. It's very odd. I remember when one of the Harry Potter books came out, and somebody like graffitied on a bridge like Dumbledore dies.
Oh right, yes, yeah, Half Blood Prince. That would have been, yeah. I remember that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that when that book came out.
Yeah. I mean, spoiler culture is weird. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. I definitely feel like I want to know less going into films, but at the same time, a lot of Doctor Strange was probably spoilt for me.
Yeah.
However, it didn't lessen my enjoyment of those moments.
Well, how are you with like when you're getting really excited or amped for a movie to come out? Do you ever like do the whole thing of like watching the trailer if you really like the trailer like 100 times, or listening, waiting for the soundtrack to come out, listening to bits of music to kind of get a clue of the vibe of the movie can sometimes
I
be tempting.
Yes, I always stay away from the soundtracks. So like films like Star Wars or a Marvel film, when those trailers come out, I'll watch them a lot at the time.
Uh-huh.
However, about a month before the film comes out, I cut myself off from the trailers, and I won't rewatch a trailer before going into a film.
You're a better man than me. I think I made the mistake with Dune last year. Um, the Hans Zimmer soundtrack came out pretty quickly, and it came up on my Spotify. I was like, I'll have a little listen here, hear the vibe of the movie, and it was good, but like it left any element of surprise going into the movie away. So I basically got the movie that I had already prepackaged in my head was on
Yeah,
screen, which I think it would have been a
yeah.
lot more impactful. And I still love the movie, credit to itself as well, but I think it would have been a lot more impactful if I went into it not watching the trailer like 50 times and not
Yeah.
knowing the vibe of it.
Do
Yeah,
they
but
like
that's
it's like the names of the tracks as well sometimes like really kind of like hint to what you're gonna see. And there was that famous case of like when the Phantom Menace came out and one of the tracks on the Phantom Menace soundtrack was like Qui-Gon Jinn dies. Or like it was like Qui-Gon's funeral or something like that. It's just like,
that's a mistake. I mean, but like all the movies do that. I mean, like Dune was the same. It was like one track was called Arrival on Arrakis. One was called Sandworm. You know, they're really literal. So yeah, your lesson to be learned here, guys, is do not look up soundtracks. It kind of ruins the movie for you.
yeah, don't tweet about going to a Marvel film until after you've seen the
Yeah,
film because some jackass on the internet's going to spoil it for you.
painted target on your back. So what have you? Obviously, I went away to Northern Ireland for 2 weeks, so that kind of had time away for us to kind of catch up movies in our own sort of space.
Yeah.
Some things we caught up with that are different, some the same. So I don't know. We talk about something we both had seen. Did you catch up with Apollo 10 and a half?
Yes, yes, I very much enjoyed it, and I know the episode before you went away, we were quite excited about the prospect of watching a new Linklater film that kind of snuck up on Netflix with little to no fanfare. But yeah, a really, really lovely animated little nostalgia film, wouldn't you say?
What is it called? It's rotoscope, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is the type of animation where it's like Linklater's kind of dabbled with this type of animation in the past, where originally it's filmed in live action and then they color and paint over the images, and it kind of
yeah.
gives off this sort of effect, like an exaggerated, whimsical feel. Would you say?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think with this one he was so he's done a Scanner Darkly before, which was like fully rotoscoped, if I remember rightly.
Right.
And there was another film that used elements of it. But Apollo 10 and a half definitely feels like rotoscoped some of it, and then other times it's made to feel like it's been rotoscoped a bit. It's
Uh
definitely a
huh.
little bit more kind of fine tuned and playful with that kind of style. I would say like I haven't looked fully into the making of, but I would assume it's not all rotoscope this time.
I think that's fair to assume because there's a lot of fantastical imagery in this, and there's some, sort of stuff set in space. There's rockets being shot up into space and everything. They couldn't do that for live action. They would have been much easier and been less of a constraint if they just animated it. So I completely am on board with that statement. But yeah, it's quite a sweet film. It's about a man. It's a man's story narrated by Jack Black of his own childhood growing up in 1969 Houston, and it weaves nostalgic tales with a fantastical account of a journey to the moon that might be real or not real. But I think we're going with not real. It's definitely
I
not
think
real.
yeah, it's that kind of that childhood fantasy of
Yes.
somebody because he what's he playing like a 9 year old, a 10 year old maybe for most of the
Is it
film.
10-year-old, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, so it's very much like those kind of fantastical situations you play in your mind or with your friends and stuff like that. As he's being like recruited by NASA to try their one of
Yes.
their space flights before the moon landing because they made the ship too small so only a child can fit in it. But it's the film's not really about that. It's really more of a film about like a feeling and an atmosphere and a time and a
Mhm.
nostalgia for that time. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess for some people you could criticize it for saying that it's just like just saying things that you like, oh yeah, we grew up on these TV shows, this one, this one, this one, this
Mm.
one. You're like, okay, yeah, you're just naming things to me. But for the most part, I think it's really good at creating um this kind of atmosphere of a memory. And like some
Mm.
things you remember and some things you don't remember exactly well. I mean, the film kind of ends on them watching the moon landing, and him. The whole film is him talking about experiencing the moon landing. But as a child, you see that he just kind of fell asleep during it. So it's like how your
Yeah.
memories portray you in a way, and how kind of nostalgia tints everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it's like it's a bad thing that it oh, remember this TV show or that time, things that my dad used to do, the swimming pool we used to go to, the theme parks. There's so much detail weaved throughout this story that feels so true and specific to Richard himself. And also, we can, even though it's set 1969, it's not totally unrelatable for, say, like a Gen X or a millennial. There's still similarities that we can find, playing with our friends in the streets, the little things that we used to do. There are that you can attach yourself to this man's story, and
It
the
ki-
detail only serves to make that even more personal, I believe.
it just kind of reminds you that everybody's childhood is somewhat similar, despite the
Mhm.
fact that like different time period, different country, there's an innocence to most people's childhoods that kind of is portrayed, I think, in a really sweet fashion in this film.
And I don't know about you, Alex. Like, I always look back at childhood with rose tinted glasses. I'm probably, that's a personality trait of myself. But do you always remember, like, every day of your childhood was sunny? Like, you remember, like, every day was like sunshine, and everything was riding your bikes, and
Yeah,
you going swimming, everything. You just remember all the good things. Yeah, and I think that's nostalgia, and we all yearn for a little bit of that.
yeah.
Going
There's
back,
no,
I
now that you've said it, there's not a lot of rainy days that I can remember in my mind. Like
no.
all your memories were on the nice sunny days.
Yeah, and also, like, with him imagining himself like on the Apollo mission, like, I can completely buy that. I remember, like, going into secondary school, or high school, if you're from America, um, going in, and I used to go to bed at night. Like, I was getting really into musical theater. I really liked performing in school events. I used to, like, always go to sleep like imagining that sort of like self indulgent thing, like, oh, what if I performed this, and like everybody in school like was cheering you or something like that, and you really glorify yourself,
Yeah,
just like the young character here is doing, with really putting himself in the biggest position and right front stage of Earth's like biggest televised event. And we do that ourselves. I mean, like, I was doing that for years as a kid.
definitely, definitely the main character syndrome.
Yeah. Well, how would everyone behave if I died? Would my whole school mourn and have a 100-piece orchestra with a big slideshow in my name?
Definitely, definitely.
But yeah, it's a really good movie, really sweet. I because there's so much detail, I could probably sit and watch that casually. Yeah, it's up there. I don't know why it's so under the radar. Netflix really did not blow the trumpet on this one, and they should. It's a great film.
It's beautiful. Like I really just let it wash over me. It really just kind of swept me up, and
Hmm.
because I wasn't really sure going in. Like, you know, sometimes you worry that maybe like films like this are a chore. Like, do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I want to see it for the sake of seeing it, but I wasn't sure how much my excitement level. My excitement level was like I love Richard Linklater, but like his rotoscoping films aren't my favorite of his.
Okay.
Um, but
But isn't every film
I
sort of like that in a way? Like, most movies, like, mostly like independent film, where you're like, right, I know everybody's like absolutely going crazy over this thing. Yeah, sure, I'm sure I'll love it. And then you put it on, and you finish it, and you're like, oh, why didn't I just watch that 3 weeks ago? And just like,
yeah.
the hardest part is sitting down and putting the thing on, isn't it? It's like it's like
Yeah,
studying or anything like that. Once you get into it, you're good. But
yeah,
sometimes you have to warm up.
really good film.
Yeah, absolutely. We both recommend that. Check it out on Netflix, guys. Also got to catch up with in the cinemas. I got to catch up with The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. And for those who don't know about it, it's a film about Nicolas Cage, played by Nicolas Cage.
Yes, yes, they've everybody kind of loves Nicolas Cage. He's had a bit of a revival over the last 5 years, where everybody's a huge Nicolas Cage fan, and it seems he's very much in on the joke this time.
He's the king of memes, isn't he? Really.
Yeah, yeah, the overacting, the crazy faces, and like I I also am a big fan of Nicolas Cage. I think he's excellent.
As am I.
I recently watched Pig, and I love the kind of way he's going recently in terms of his acting choices. And I haven't caught up with the unbearable weight of massive talent, but I really want to, because I'm looking forward to seeing what he does.
Well, all that stuff you listed about crazy faces and self indulgence is definitely what they hone in on in this film. It's well, obviously it's Nicolas Cage movie, so it's a comedy that centers on a creatively unfulfilled Nick Cage who is in danger of financial ruin. He's not getting the acting offers, and his relationship with his daughter and his ex-wife is strained to its limit, to say the least. Until he gets an offer for $1 million to attend a birthday party in Majorca of a supposedly dangerous superfan. Yeah, things get really funny as Cage is recruited by the CIA to capture the criminal whilst also being undercover at the same time. But as you'd expect, the bad guy, played by Pedro Pascal, who is amazing in this, and Cage, they start forming a really close relationship. And Cage is in a dilemma of who to believe or whether this guy really is the villain that the CIA is telling him that he is.
Gotcha.
So
And that's played by Pedro Pascal, right?
yeah, the bad guy. Well, this
The
in inverted commas.
gotcha. Yeah, he looks like a lot of fun. He looks like a lot of fun in this.
Yeah, he's got the cutest face in the world, isn't he? This face where you just like really latch on to him, and he's just got a really funny comedy presence.
Definitely. It's a shame they hide it under a helmet in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's a really like it's an interesting premise that really relies on the one joke, really, of Nick Cage being in on his own status of, like I said, the king of memes. But they do a really good job of stretching that joke out and giving the audience a really good time. It all comes down really between the chemistry between Cage and Pascal, and it is lightning in a bottle. The film isn't perfect, but if you're even mildly a fan of Nicolas Cage, then you don't want to miss it.
This must have been a really interesting film to pitch to Nicolas Cage, right? Like, do you, this film doesn't get made unless you play yourself in it. And could you have got anybody
Yeah,
else to play Nicolas Cage?
like you said, but with everything the last 10 years of the culture around Nicolas Cage, he must be like self-aware.
Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah, and he definitely is in this. I mean, like he completely doubles down on it. Um, yeah, it is a funny movie. I mean, like the first interaction between him and Pascal, is like, do you want to watch a movie? They get really high and drunk together, and it's like, right, I'm gonna show you my favorite film of all time. Pascal's also a really big. He says he's a connoisseur of films, and they sit down in his living room, and he puts on Paddington 2 for them both to watch. And Nicolas Cage has never seen it before, and then it cuts to the end of the movie, and Nicolas Cage is sobbing, saying that it's a masterpiece. But yeah, it's full of moments like that.
He's not wrong.
Paddington 2 is probably a masterpiece.
He's not wrong there. It's the better of the two.
Yeah, I cried.
Yeah. I think I shed a tear too at Paddington too. It's the scene where he's like gonna drown, right?
I think all of it.
Which sounds really dark if you haven't watched Paddington 2, but you're like, yeah, where Paddington is like gonna die.
Oh, no,
But
it's
he
so
doesn't.
sweet. It's just so sweet. It's just everything, the perfect little British film. Anyway, what else have you caught up with?
So I have also caught up with. I mean, a film I really enjoyed while you were away, which you didn't get a chance to talk about, and I would like to wait to discuss it further with you. Would be Paul Verhoeven's latest film, Benedetta. Um,
Hmm.
if anything, I kind of wish I'd gone to the cinema with you, Chris, because I went solo, and it's not a film to go solo.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's a bit of
Um,
a non-sploitation film, a bit of a religious epic. But I'm just going to chuck it out there and say that I think Verhoeven made quite the masterpiece with it. It really doubles down on the epicness. I wasn't expecting it to be such a religious epic. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna hold back on that one to talk with you because I think it would be an interesting topic of discussion. I believe it's streaming on Mubi next month, maybe. So
ooh,
yeah,
okay.
I don't think
Yeah,
you're gonna have anywhere else to catch up with it at the moment.
yeah, well, I really wanted to, but it wasn't unfortunately it wasn't playing down this part of the country, so I didn't really get a chance to. But it's yeah, really high on the list, especially with the well, not the debate, the whole fallout of the movie when it was released, and uh, the Christian community, religious community was picketing the movie outside theaters. I don't know so much over here, but it certainly was in America. So
Yeah,
yeah, let's see what the whole fuss is about. But this is pretty typical of a Verhoeven movie. He does quite like to push the boundaries of a mainstream film.
Oh, he's the ultimate provocateur, and he
Hundred
provokes
percent.
here. You know, he fully provokes, even though the film itself is based on true events. So
Yes.
there's definitely a more fantastical element to it, depending on what you believe. But yeah, he definitely has ups the ante and ups some of the kind of eroticism, I guess, um, in play with the film. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, like I said, I wasn't expecting him to really kind of go for the kind of grandiose religious spectacle that it
Mm.
ends up becoming. So yeah, great film. Um,
Yeah, no, definitely looking forward to catching up with that one. Yeah, we'll yeah, we'll save that for another episode because I think that could get very interesting. There's a lot of conversation around that film, so yeah, we can definitely use that to our advantage.
but a film that we both caught up with, and we've kind of been teasing about, talking about it for a while, is The Northman, Robert Eggers, a Viking revenge, Shakespearean thriller, drama, bit of action film. What would you say?
Yeah, a really brave film. This is his third outing as a director. We were treated to 2015. He released The Witch, which is probably my favorite of his three films, which is a horror film that centers around this Puritan family in New England. And we've also had a film in 2018 called The Lighthouse, which is again memes central that film is. I get Willem Dafoe Lighthouse memes come up on social media nearly every day, and now he's come out with the Northman, which is another period piece. He seems to be really interested and fixated on certain periods of time that are removed from ourselves, and discovering different pockets of people from different communities. The Northman, have we? I mean, how often do we get an Icelandic Viking epic movie? Like that, those don't come around very often.
No, they've kind of. I guess maybe you've had some Viking TV shows play out on TV recently. I
Mm,
can't really comment on them because I haven't seen them. But yeah, you don't see these kinds of films on the big screen, and they gave him a budget to work with. I think it was like 150 million dollar
yeah,
budget film. So another thing, you don't see films of those budgets get made anymore. It's usually like your 200 million blockbusters, or you're made from, like, a bunch of scraps indie films.
yeah.
So it's really nice to see something that's middle of the road, and a guy who's probably come from smaller budgets. God, he knows how to make the most of it. It's a beautiful looking film that takes in like Viking Norse mythology, and these kind of beautiful surroundings, and the action is gory and brutal, and yeah, it's
Mm,
really good. And he's also got an insane cast, which is um, Ethan Hawke, Nicole Kidman, Alexander Skarsgård, Anya Taylor
yeah.
Joy, like and how could I forget Willem Dafoe in a
Well,
in a relatively small role, but always fun to see him.
yeah, we even get Bjork in this movie as
Oh,
well.
of course, her comeback.
Yeah, well, it's been 20 years since she's done a film, so that's really interesting too. Yeah, but I find this very fascinating with the film, and I love, like you said, all the Norse mythology that surrounds this film. It seems such a great choice. It seems the right choice to make because Vikings are so tied to Norse mythology that it's what they live by. It's their creed. It's like, whenever I die in battle, I'll be sent to the gates of Valhalla and everything. To fight eternally. It's that sort of they live by that, and it makes sense for that movie be to weave that into the story because certainly it doesn't put it this way in the film that Skarsgård's character, who is hell bent on revenge as a kid, he witnesses the death of his father, of the king, by the king's own brother, and manages to escape and promises revenge on one day on his uncle. And it's this sort of like I said, a Hamlet. I think it's based on Hamlet, isn't it?
Yeah, which was based on Nordic. myth to begin with. I think it all kind of comes
Oh,
full
right,
circle in the end.
yes.
So that this tale of Amulet is the
Amulets,
original kind
yes.
of source material for Hamlet. So I believe. Um,
Mm.
but I'm pretty sure that's where I've the conversation's been going recently about all that. But yeah, it's if you've seen the trailer, it kind of breaks down the whole kind of storyline. It's I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother, and I will kill you, Fiona. I might have butchered that last one.
Very good. That was oh no, that was a really good attempt actually. Much better than me. But the whole thing, like him seeing like people from Norse mythology, like witches and everything, or visions of the future, or does he see Odin at some point throughout the film?
There's definitely some ravens, if I remember, and they probably speak about the All Father at some point. Though it is worth saying that I think you can have minimal like knowledge of Norse mythology and go in. Like
100%.
if you've watched Thor, you'd probably be okay with most of the stuff they're talking about.
Yeah. Well,
you know?
what I was going to say is that it's never put forward that this is actually literal what he is seeing. Like it could be almost a delusion of his own sort of revenge, married with his intense, sort of religious, self onto Norse mythology. He never really. This could be like literally them talking to him, or it could be that he has completely gone mad. And I like the way the
Yeah.
movie doesn't really tell you which of that is true.
Yeah, and there's like a scene which is the most kind of fantastical in the film where he has to fight this kind of giant dead Viking person to get like the night sword. I can't fully remember. It's
Oh
been a
yeah,
couple of weeks now, but the sword that can only be used at night. But it kind of he goes through this whole sequence of beating this thing, but then it cuts to him almost as if he's just entered the cave again and picked up the sword. So it leaves you wondering, like, did he have to go through that? Did he not? There's a lot of it kind of
mm.
leaves it up to your interpretation of the myth, I guess.
Did you go see this with anybody, or did you go see it by yourself?
I went solo for this one as well. Easier to
Sorry,
watch
I wasn't
solo.
trying to embarrass you. I wasn't trying to embarrass you. Don't worry.
This one
Uh,
was a lot easier to watch solo than Benedetta.
oh yeah, you could actually keep your hands by your side this time.
Yeah, I didn't have to put them up in the air and be like, no, I'm not being weird. Nothing weird.
I went to go see it with Lauren and my dad when I was over in Northern Ireland, and I think he was expecting a very very different film, and I think that's partly due to how this movie has been marketed. I understand they got to do it, they got to put bums on seats, but they've really advertised the Northman as if being this full out, epic Braveheart esque gladiator movie, which it certainly is not. um, if you know Robert Eggers' work, you're going into another Robert Eggers movie. But if you're for the unassuming, the 80% that are probably going to go see this movie, they might be disappointed. It's not going to be that movie, is what I'm saying.
It toes the line of like an art house film
100%.
and like a Viking period blockbustery kind of film. Yeah, there's elements of like, oh, here's a great action scene where you get to watch a Viking just like tear through people. That's great, love that. And then it goes to like weird musical kind of chanting and magical stuff going on and visions appearing and so it's kind of like it definitely go in with the thought of like this isn't just a straight up revenge slasher movie.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you see any like TV spots or anything, or any mini trailers on Facebook, it was like two guys fighting it out with swords in a volcano, which is like
Oh, so
30
good.
seconds of the movie.
Yeah,
Which is great, but I mean they're
the
both
trailer
completely
for
naked.
this one gives a lot away, and I remember watching the trailer when it came out like 6 months ago.
Uh-huh.
And I remember going, that showed me more than I wanted to see from that film. And then I completely I'd never watched the trailer again. So don't watch the trailer going in. I completely forgot about the volcano bit at
Yeah.
the end, and they kept teasing it, and I was like, "Am I going to see two dudes fighting in a volcano, Revenge of the Sith style here?" And the answer is yeah, pretty much. And I was like, "Oh god, this film's amazing."
Yeah, definitely dodged the trailer because I think the trailer just kind of basically tells you the whole prologue is just spoiled. Every scene with Ethan Hawke is basically in the trailer. Love Ethan Hawke; he's doing great at work here, but he's not in it for long. But
No. Yeah, I'll avenge your father. Why?
Yeah, no, great movie. Look forward to catching up with again. Like I said,
Mm,
it's a really, like it's a strong. Like if you're giving this something out of like 10, I'd probably be leaning towards like an 8. It's really great, but there's something holding me back. I need to have a little revisit. It's not as did enjoy The Witch. And The Lighthouse probably more than Northman, but it makes me really excited, and it's really promising to see him work with a budget this big and
mm.
in the future, I hope it's not the last time.
I think this was my favorite of his films. But maybe that's my own sensibilities, as this is probably his easiest film out of the three to kind of connect with as an audience. That being said,
Or you're
I
just
like.
you're a repressed Viking, are you? You got Viking blood deep down there.
No, no, I would not deal well in those times. I remember that scene where they just like
I'd be dead.
pillage a village and like just round up all the kids and just. I mean, you again. It's a very violent, brutal film, and you see your main character partake in these violent and brutal acts. Like nobody's good in this film. It's a very morally grey
Yeah.
film. You're not. I wouldn't even say you're supposed to root for Hamlet, or at least you do because you follow him. But like by the end of the film, it's very much like revenge, not great, like most revenge films end up becoming. But yeah, they herd like children into a house and then just set
Mm.
it on fire, and I was like, oh my god. Um, that's quite a difficult watch, even though a lot of it is implied violence rather than physically watching it. But yeah,
Yes.
I'd be a shit Viking. Sorry, I was going off on a tangent. I'd be dead. I would not be good.
Oh, you got the pale skin for it. I mean, are you okay? You're not looking very well.
I got the beard, you know.
But yeah, it's brutal. Like you're saying, Luke, it's not squeamish though. I mean, like there's one part of the movie where like Amlet literally nails about 10 guys and like in some sort of a shape onto the side of a building, and it's like the most gross, disgusting looking thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was very Game of Thrones. I thought, like like the way the White Walkers
Yeah,
like kind of fashion people into like weird artistic corpses. Yeah,
it's like it's like the original Banksy.
yeah. I mean, I guess with this film as well, I think it was shot in Iceland and shot in Ireland, right, or Northern Ireland. So
Northern
very,
Ireland, yes,
very,
yes.
very much Game of Thrones in a look.
Right, so this one might put you to sleep, Alex, because I know you don't watch catch up with that many Japanese animated films. Yeah, don't worry, I wasn't going to talk about Star Trek. It was 2018's film called Penguin Highway. This one centers around a fourth grade schoolboy who investigates the mysterious reason as to why there are suddenly masses of penguins appearing in his hometown. And he has a strong feeling that all of this is somehow related to the young woman who works at a dental clinic who he coincidentally has a very strong crush on. It's directed by Hiroyasu Ishida and is his very first film. I really hope that we have more on the way because this was a real adventure from start to finish. The whimsical, always striking imagery is enough merit alone, I think, to sit down and spend 2 hours with it. But the story is just as strong. There are definitely influences from American films over the last few decades with that sort of energy, like something from Spielberg's E.T., or even something like The Goonies, but also intelligent with its science fiction elements. Almost like you're watching an Alex Garland movie, but for kids. So it's got
Okay,
that kind of like yeah, it's like almost like Annihilation in a way, but like a nice like
Annihilation
digestible version of that.
Penguins.
Yeah, yeah, I'm going there. Like the young boy is so funny in this. He's really self serious. He's like 10 years old, but he thinks he's gonna be like he's gonna solve all the world's problems, cure everyone's diseases. He has this fixation with the dentist woman's boobs, and frequently references his fascination and love for them nearly probably every 10 minutes of the film, which is it's played for laughs though. It's like it's a very Japanese thing. Like if you watch a lot of anime, there's always like a little pervy little kid who's got some fixation with some girl's boobs. It's just like it's their humor. I don't know. They find it funny. I find it funny too.
One of the only kind of like of my few anime films I've watched was Your Name. Where have you
Mm.
seen that one? Where they
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a boy and a girl swap bodies, and then every time the boy wakes up in the girl's bodies, he's like boobs.
Touching. Yeah, he's like fascinated with them in nearly every scene. It's you're sort of like, is this how would this fly over here if they made it
I didn't know
America
that
in
was a thing.
America?
I did, yeah, I didn't know this was a through point for these films.
But in the end, it is a really jaw dropping film, and it's very very sweet. So you probably won't, but if you do feel like putting on an animated film someday, check it out. It's called Penguin Highway. I would definitely recommend it.
Well, Chris, if you get to talk about a film only you've seen, then it's only right that I get to talk about a film only I've seen. I watched over the weekend. I watched the movie adaptation of Uncharted. Have you ever played the video games?
Uh, right. He's trying to start an argument here. You know, I don't own a PlayStation. I own an Xbox. I would love to play Uncharted because really big fan of Tomb Raider and I like adventure games. But no, Alex, I've never played Uncharted before.
They're great games. They're great games. They're like Indiana Jones meets National Treasure meets Tomb Raider. Um, Very swashbuckling, lots of action, massive cinematic set pieces. And then this adaptation, which has been they've been trying to like get off the ground for a long time. It's gone through a lot of directors. It's gone through a lot of actors as well. I believe. I believe at one point Mark Wahlberg was attached to be the star. Nathan Drake. However, that kind of passed, and now he is playing Sully, the kind of older mentor kind of at one point, soon to be friend of Nathan Drake. Yeah, I was expecting this film to be utter rubbish, and it's not. It's not great. Don't get me wrong, but I had a lot of fun with it. I don't know if I was just in a good mood at the time. But Tom Holland does a good job of making Nathan Drake his own. He's still a little bit,
Young,
kind of like he's a little, very young, very young. Definitely, this is supposedly a kind of prequel to the games, even though it's not
right?
it's not within the game's continuity for sure, because they kind of like zombify different set pieces from the game and like smash them into this film.
And
It
he's wearing
doesn't
the same
fully,
outfit from the video games too, isn't he?
yeah, it doesn't fully work as an adaptation of the games, but it's fun enough, and Tom Holland is quite fun here. He's got a bit of that Peter Parker awkwardness still, which doesn't really kind of like fly too much for this character. He's much more of an arrogant, wise cracking, ass kicking dude. But he is a lot of fun, and there's definitely a difference there, and there's definitely a hint to like he's going to become more of his own as he goes on. Um, the same cannot be said for Mark Wahlberg, um, who just definitely feels like he was given the money to be in this film, and he was like, "Cool, looking forward to my paycheck. I'm going to put in the most one note, uncharismatic performance ever." I mean, he's not a particularly good actor to begin with, and yeah, he's just kind of seems miserable here, like he doesn't want to be here. Um, but yeah, I'm not really a massive fan of Mark Wahlberg, to be fair. So maybe that's my own kind of, uh, my own.
Is he just trying to play the character in a stoic, like deadpan way, or is it just come and it's coming off like it as a bad performance, or is it
Well,
just a bad
he's like,
performance?
I think he's playing it as the comedic relief of the film, which I guess he kind of is. But all his kind of like he doesn't really emote much when it comes to the line delivery, so it doesn't really work, and kind of Tom Holland's left to pick the charisma off the floor and take it for himself.
Well,
um
that sounds about right because I don't think Mark. Yeah, because Mark Wahlberg's face doesn't really emit. much, does it? I mean, like, it's kind of got one mode. And I'm trying to think of every performance he's ever kind of done that I've seen, and his face looks the same every time.
Yeah, I feel like the only one where maybe I can remember him being good was The Nice Guys. Oh no,
The other
The Other
guys,
Guys. Oh, whoa, yeah, careful. I need to be careful. The Nice Guys is a great film. The Nice Guys is a really good film. The Other
the other
Guys
guys is
is a
almost a good
pretty
movie.
decent comedy. It's
Yeah,
okay. It's okay.
that movie's the first half of that movie is good.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, Mark, I've got a whole section of my Wikipedia dedicated to my hate crimes Wahlberg. Yeah, he kind of ruins it.
Oh dear, yeah, it's such a weird thing with Mark Wahlberg because, like, ever since the late 90s, they've like really tried to make him like the superstar, and they've put him in like loads of these different movies where they were kind of earnestly trying to put him as like the male lead for about 10 years, until like The Departed came along, and they just, I don't know, like they've never known what to do with him, but he just still seems to be popular and staying around, and people love him and champion him.
Mm.
I just don't, I he's a hard one. I don't really get it.
Yeah, I'm not sold on him. But the film's okay. I mean, it could be better for sure. Um, Antonio Banderas is kind of just you know, he's not utilized to the full extent, but there's fun to be had, and there's a promise of maybe better adventures to come. I wouldn't say they should completely not make any more of these. It'd be fun to see maybe another one. But I think maybe they need a little bit more. There's such a charm to the film, to the games, and they're already very cinematic. It doesn't make sense
Hmm.
that you kind of wouldn't be at the same level as them. Like, you got to try, surely. Um, like, there's some really witty dialogue in the games, which just wasn't really translated on the big screen.
$120 million budget with a box office return of $395 million. I don't know that you'll get another one of those, to be honest. The returns, I know, like that is a lot of money, but like in terms of a big budget movie, that's, I think they would be looking for more money than that. I don't know if you'll get another.
No, maybe not, but maybe they'll put it down to the time it came out, like it was in that early days of this year with the cinematic release. So
Hmm.
COVID was still a
Yeah,
big.
Spider Man was dominating.
Spider-Man was dominating, and but yeah, maybe it'll have better luck on its kind of digital run, which it's on now. But yeah, I wouldn't say don't check it out. I think it's going to divide fans of the games, but yeah, it's fun enough, and I could see them getting better if they put a little bit more effort into like truly trying to adapt the games.
Is it something
And
like
maybe.
if you and I sat down and watched, it'd be really fun? Like in on the tropes sort of thing, or is it just like it's just fine, it's just
No,
solid?
I think it's just I think it's just a fun action film. It's not. There's nothing there to have a few beers and laugh at so much. It's just kind of like Friday night if you're eating a pizza.
Uh,
You can switch your
Sometimes
brain
it's the
off.
worst type of movie, though, isn't it? Like aggressively fine.
Yeah, there's nothing to laugh at. There's nothing so bad that it's funny, which is
Mm.
a shame because, like you said, if it went down that kind of route, then maybe there'd be more to it. But yeah, no, it's a very middle of the road film.
Right, Alex, you've had a chance to. I know I managed to talk about it on on an earlier episode. The film X. You managed to actually finally catch up with it.
Yes, yeah. I don't think I would have been as fast to catch up as I had it not been for your recommendation. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. It's a kind of throwback to those 70s slasher films, with a bit of sexploitation in it, and I yeah, it's a lot of fun. It doesn't break any kind of new ground, I don't think, in that kind of genre, which I think maybe I
Yeah.
wanted from it. But but no, it's a nasty little horror film, and it kind of plays on that kind of generational fear of you know, the generation that comes after you. There's always like a distrust and a distaste for different kind of cultural boundaries and
Mhm.
norms, and kind of different influences from society and stuff like that. And it kind of plays on those fears really well, and that's the great fear and terror of the film, I guess. The young versus the old.
Yeah, it's a real sort of it's like it's prudishness to the nth degree, having battle with self expression in a time in the 70s where everybody was really like, right, that hippie generation where everybody's really trying to express themselves and really go as far opposite as they can, and it makes a really good sort of argument to go in, well, yeah, why are you so offended by this?
Mm,
It really puts a spotlight even onto maybe someone who's watching this film that's not really, they might have walked into this not being that familiar with these sort of subjects and kind of thinking, right, it puts a spotlight on you thinking, right, why is my hang up with this? Why do I find this so outlandish? And is it outlandish? And I think that's quite a good conversation. It makes these guys the heroes at the end of the day, and the missionaries who are going against it are they're flattened, they are wiped out by the end of this movie. So yeah, it's quite an interesting film. I have some really great sequences. I think the sequence with the alligator early on in the film is
oh
beautifully shot.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of tension there as Mia Goth's character takes a skinny dip
Mm.
in I don't know, like a lake or something.
Like a giant
Yeah,
pond.
yeah. Why is she doing that? Like pre, her about to shoot a porno. Like, ew.
Oh yeah, that's actually really true. Like muddy water. Yeah, yeah, sure.
But yeah, this kind of alligator that's watching her at the same time, and
Yeah, you get this.
she gets back up onto the shore just in time before it bites her face
Yes.
off.
Yeah, well, she's unaware. She doesn't even know. It's a chase sequence where she doesn't even know she's being chased.
Yes, exactly, and she
It,
is unaware throughout the whole thing. And the smart thing is, it's setting up a kill for later on for a completely different character, and
oh yeah.
it's brilliant.
I think that's a good thing too, because it's like, well, they wouldn't bring this up for no reason, and it's setting up a kill for later on, and that's kind of the fun in this movie. The movie does a lot of that, where like the very opening of the film is actually the end of the movie, where everybody has already been killed,
Yeah.
and we go into the house and we can see where bodies have been. We can see dead bodies in certain positions, and then you're watching the movie and you're like, right, I remember where that body ends up being. I remember where that one ends up being. There's blood there, blood there. When's this going to happen in this hallway and that hallway? And that's quite fun.
Yeah, it's almost like it just builds the tension from the first minute of like, all right, so I know things are going to go sideways. It's just when are they going to go sideways? Yeah, it's a brilliant little slasher. So yeah, that's what we've been catching up on recently. But next week, I think we're gonna delve back into a different multiverse, which seems to be the pop kind of pop culture's new thing at the moment. As Everything Everywhere All at Once comes out in the UK, Chris and I are gonna try get around to watching that so we can dedicate a whole episode to it because reviews from the states are saying that this one's quite the film.
Yeah. Oh, the I don't know if it's hyperbole or anything, but everybody's losing their minds over this film.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's the well they refer to themselves as the Daniels, right? The directors,
yes,
and they
directed by Daniels. Yeah.
they come from a music video background, but then a few years ago they made the farting corpse film with Daniel Radcliffe, which was Swiss Army
uh,
Man, and I bloody love that film. I thought it was brilliant, really creative.
I still haven't caught up with it. Actually, maybe I might catch up with it tonight or tomorrow before I go see Everything Everywhere All at
Oh,
Once.
it's so
Um,
sweet. It's for a farting corpse movie. It's so sweet.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've seen like the trailer like a dozen times, so I need to catch up with them. Big fan of Radcliffe and Dano, so I'll definitely catch up with that. But yeah, this film everyone's going crazy over. I mean, its average rating on Letterboxd to 5 is sitting at 4.6, which if you're on Letterboxd, that is high. That's like top like
Mm,
one of the best movies of all time high.
yeah.
So yeah, and people are saying it's the even though we've had a handful, but we've had a lot at once. It's the ultimate multiverse movie. People are coining it as saying so. Yeah, we've had some good multiverse films. So if this is a good one, I'm excited to see it. And the trailer had me excited by itself. All it seems to play with every different trope of cinema, every type of like cinematic medium. Even in the trailer, like the screen ratio changes like a dozen times. So I'm just excited to see all the places where this goes. How emotional it gets, or if it gets emotional at all. I think the soundtrack has been really lauded as well. I'm like I said, I'm not going to listen to it though.
Yeah, yeah,
Not
and
spoil
don't
it for
watch
yourself.
the trailer. I watched the trailer a long time ago. I'm not gonna watch it again before I go in. That's the rule.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll catch up about that one next week. I'm really excited to find out what you think about that.
Definitely, definitely.
Or we might hate it. What if we hate it? What if we're the only ones?
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
Well, the best thing would be if one of us hates it and one of us loves it, and then we can battle it out. As I mentioned
We're
last week, let's.
Well, yeah, we're 13 episodes in and have yet to have an argument. We're gonna overcompensate soon and just like only be arguments. Should that be a bit more interesting? People might enjoy listening to that a little bit more.
Maybe this is the calm before the storm.
This is the honeymoon period, as they would call it. And then we're gonna start living with each other, and like you start leaving cupboards open in the kitchen. Like it gets really under my skin.
Yeah, and you don't wash up the dishes to my standard of washing up the dishes. And
I always wash up the dishes. You didn't do them last night.
Oh, the future. The future. Anyway, guys, obviously you can listen to the podcast on all mediums, Spotify and Apple and Amazon and all kinds of places. But the best thing you can do is share it with your friends, give us a review, give us a rating. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram. We even do some stupid reels sometimes. That's been our latest thing is kind of going down the video format on the Instagram. You can watch me do Doctor Strange moves. You can watch Kris talk to R2D2. Come join us on Instagram at the Film Angle. You can also on Spotify. I think this is exclusively on Spotify. So sorry if anybody listens to us anywhere else. There's little polls that you can do. So when you click on the episode, you can scroll down and there's a poll. And we do one with every episode. So if you're listening on Spotify right now, go vote on the poll. I don't know what the question is. Sometimes the question is, which film out of the films that we discussed did you like the most? And then you put one on the Doctor Strange one. There's a what rating would you give Doctor Strange? So go ahead and vote on the polls, guys.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. We've been trying to experiment with tournaments and polls in past, but obviously we're early days. We haven't had a lot of sort of feedback with those. But the more people doing that, the better. The more conversation it strikes, the more different opinions. I like to see people who think really differently to us, and we don't have just like 90% people voting for Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, if you've got really weird opposing opinions, we want to hear them. Definitely vote on our polls on every episode.
Definitely. So yeah, that's it for this week's episode, guys. Yep, go tell your friends about us and say nice things about us. This is the Film Angle, and I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris.
Good night.
Good night, guys.